This is your local election headquarters.
Well, to change the state's constitution, that has to go through you, the voter. So come November 6th, when you go into the voting booth to vote for your favorite candidate, you'll also be faced with 6 amendments. Now, those can be confusing, even for the most seasoned political pundit. If you're not prepared, you might not know exactly what you're voting on. That's why we've invited Robert Scott with the Public Affairs Research Council. You guys have done some excellent research with these amendments. He's coming here to explain them to us. Thanks for coming on the show, Robert.
It's good to be here. Our whole purpose is to give you a guide to let you decide how you want to vote on these, but most importantly, please read it or please get prepared before you go into that voting booth, because if you go in there and see those 6 constitutional amendments and are reading that ballot item and you're not ready, you're going to be a little confused.
Absolutely. It's a tremendous service you provide to the public. So we have about 5 minutes, but we have 6 amendments to go through. Okay. So we're going to explain it in the most simplest terms. Let's get started. Amendment number 1, prohibit felons from public office for 5 years after serving a sentence.
That's right. What amendment number 1 would do is it would say you have to wait 5 years after serving your sentence for a felony before you can run for public office or be appointed to a significant post in a public office. It used to be we had a 15-year gap. The state Supreme Court overturned that for technical reasons, and then we had no waiting period. Now this would establish a new waiting period of 5 years.
Yeah, it's interesting. Okay, amendment number 2. This amendment has probably received more media attention than all the other amendments combined. It's interesting. It would require a unanimous jury verdict in all felony cases.
That's right. You know, Fred, there are so many inconsequential constitutional amendments that we've had to look at over the years. This one is truly of consequence, and this is the type of subject matter that actually belongs in a constitution. So this is an important one. You should really pay attention. Basically what this means is in Louisiana, you can have 10 out of 12 jurors for a verdict in a felony case. And what this would do is it would say you'd have to have a unanimous jury. That would put us alongside of all the other states except Oregon and the federal system. We've been an outlier in this, and that's one of the reasons that this has been brought.
Now, I know from hearing from some district attorneys throughout the state, some of them believe that the current system is more efficient, and they argue that they don't want justice to be hung up on 1 or 2 jurors who are holding out.
You can make an argument that it's a more efficient system to have 10 rather than 12. At the same time, you have a lot of district attorneys generally that have decided to support this.
I know Hiller Moore just signed on to
amendment. Yes, a local attorney here, district attorney here. And so I think you've seen a real change here. What's significant about this is you have the House and Senate both went along with it. You even had a senator, Senator Dan Claytor, who used to work in a district attorney's office, say, stop gaming the system. We need to do this right. He came out in favor of it. Then you had the Advocate newspaper do a great in-depth report on why this was a problem. And then you have groups on the left and the right of the political spectrum coming in and saying we need to fix this. It's a rather phenomenal coming together of chemistry to put this on the ballot and to try to make this work.
I saw it go through the legislature during the special session, and it got overwhelming support. Let's move on to amendment number 3. This is one that did make me scratch my head. Allow political subdivisions to exchange public equipment and personnel for authorized activities.
Yeah, Fred, you're allowed to have your head scratched on this one. What are we voting on? It's local governments, local government entities, parishes, municipalities, fire districts, whatever, they sometimes might want to share some personnel or equipment. And there's this thought and an abundance of caution. Need to make sure we're constitutionally sound if 2 entities do that, because you're not supposed to give away government resources, even to other governments. So that's what this is really all about. And you still have to have an agreement, but if you share something or loan something or give something and you're not getting the full fair compensation back for it, you can make an agreement and still do that under this constitutional amendment.
Okay, and amendment number 4, prohibit using money in the Transportation Trust Fund by state police for traffic control purposes. Is this the tax you pay at the gas pump? Is that where that goes?
Yeah, the tax you pay at the gas pump goes in the Transportation Trust Fund. It's used to build roads, highways, maintenance, help pay for DOTD, ports, etc. But it's also been used to help the state police with some of their expenses, particularly traffic control. But there's always a debate about how much more of that money they're using to sort of help support their more general operations. And what we've seen happen since 1990, when the Transportation Trust Fund was put into place, there's been at least $700 million that has been transferred over to state police through this. And basically, it got used for a number of years to help pay our routine operating costs. And that became an issue. A lot of people said we don't have trust in our gas tax anymore, that it's going to the right place. State police said, hey, this is a legitimate expense. And finally, it's come to this, where we'd actually changed the Constitution, which allows state police to use Transportation Trust Fund money for traffic control purposes, and this would say no more.
Yeah, interesting. And I know that was an item of debate during the gubernatorial election, and I think
every single candidate said we need to put trust back into the trust fund.
Yeah, they did.
And in fact, we have not been doing this for the last few years. Under Governor Edwards and this legislature, we haven't been transferring that money over for this purpose.
This would make it official, though.
It would make it. It would make it constitutional.
You can't change the Constitution. It's hard to change the Constitution, and it should be, right?
It should be.
Yeah. Okay. Amendment number 5 allows special assessments for certain homes held in trust. What's that one about?
Well, some people have trusts where, like, they will want to continue to live in their home, but sign the value of that home over to, you know, a grandchild or a
set up a
children,
trust.
or you set up a trust for it. And what this would do is it would say there are certain exemptions that are available for your homestead exemption and other ways of controlling your property taxes. And this would just say, even if you're in trust, you still get that. Once you finally turn it over to whoever, then that's not valid anymore.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, Amendment number 6 would require a tax phase-in for primary homes when an assessment increases by more than 50%. That's another head-scratcher, but I'm sure you have a good
well,
explanation.
I think the big head-scratcher is where are people getting a 50% or more increase in their assessment? And that is apparently happening in some pockets, like particularly in New Orleans, where you have these Airbnb phenomenon going on. And so basically what this would do is it would say if you're 50% or more in your assessment remains the same, but your tax collector, and in most cases the sheriff, is going to do a formula and phase in that increased tax over 4 years. So if you're 50% or more, under this amendment, you're going to get a phased-in impact of that. However, if you're 40%, you get the full phase-in impact over those first 4 years. So if your increase is 50%, you're going to pay less in tax over 4 years than if your increase is 40%.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sounds like they need maybe do some more work on that.
It's up to the voters to decide that.
It is up to the voters, absolutely.